Okay, this relationship is going nowhere. It's time to end it. That doesn't mean you have to burn bridges or rip somebody to shreds. A breakup has to be firm, has to be definite, but it doesn't have to be cruel. Hey, this is Todd. Welcome to the Thrive Singles Podcast. Whether you're single again or still single, stop hating being single and learn to thrive. And welcome to this week's episode of the Thrive Singles Podcast. Thank you for joining me here today. It's great to have you with me. This week, I want to talk about how to break up. What's the right way to end a relationship? I'd venture to say that, if not all of us, the overwhelming majority of us have been through a breakup. For many of you, this might have been a breakup of a dating relationship. For some of you, it may have been an engagement. Most of us have been through at least one, and a lot of us through several. Some may have ended by your choice. Others might have ended by somebody else's choice, but all of them leave a mark. And I'm not sure that there's any great way to end a relationship, but if you're the one ending the relationship, there are better ways and worse ways of doing that. Here are some of the better ways. And these tips apply to most situations, but not all. Today I'm talking specifically about dating relationships and maybe engagements, but not marriages. Marriage is a whole different level of relationship and needs and deserves its own episode. Also, for the most part, I'm talking about just typical relationships. At the end of this post, I'll deal a little bit with abusive relationships, but abusive relationships also deserve their own episode. There's an old maxim that says an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. First and foremost, the best way to handle breakups is to avoid super painful breakups by not getting into long, drawn-out dating relationships in the first place. For more on that, go back and listen to my episode called Dating versus Dating. What's a date? Not only is this one of the keys to good breakups, but it's one of the keys to thriving as a single person. These long-term, intimate, sexualized dating relationships almost always lead to painful breakups. No matter how you go about breaking up, the depth of the ties sex creates will make it painful. Because that's what sex does. It binds people together. So it's going to be more painful when you break it apart. But even in that case, you can make it as pain-free as possible, or at least slightly less painful, by breaking up the right way. Because no matter how hard you try to get singleness right, you could end up in a dating relationship or an engagement that needs to end. When that happens, don't drag it out. I mean, relationships do ebb and flow, emotions wax and wane. There may be times when you feel the relationship isn't going well and times you feel it is. And that's typical. That's the nature of relationships. But sometimes you come to a realization that the person you're dating or engaged to just isn't the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. Maybe some character trait surfaces, that's a deal breaker. Maybe you reach an impasse on some religious, moral, financial, or sexual issue. Or maybe some new information comes to your attention that casts that person in a whole different light. If you come to a decision that the relationship must end it sooner rather than later. Don't drag things out. If you wait longer, it's not going to hurt any less. In fact, it could hurt more for you and for the other person. Better to break cleanly than to keep going through the motions. You know, the exchanging forced smiles, the half-hearted I love yous, and the passionless kisses, while you both try to ignore that persistent feeling that something isn't right. Don't play that game. If something needs to be fixed, fix it. If it can't be fixed, it's time to end it. Also, be direct. Don't give subtle clues that can be misinterpreted, saying things like, it might be better if we saw less of each other, or it might be best if we saw other people. And unless you really mean it, don't say that you can still be friends or give some false hope that maybe you can get back together again someday. Be direct. I am breaking up with you. we are no longer dating. The engagement is off. Use any such phrasing that's definite and leaves no room for ambiguity. And be direct about the reason. I'm breaking up with you because I found out about a gambling habit, or found out you had another girlfriend or boyfriend, or arrest warrant, or porn addiction, or whatever the case may be. Or I simply can't marry somebody so dull, so loud, so driven, so lazy, so irresponsible, so uptight, or whatever the actual incompatibility is. But being direct doesn't mean being mean. You can be direct and still be gentle. Like the Bible says, you can speak the truth in love. There's no need to pile on or add insult to injury. The object is simply to end a relationship, not to tear down the person that you've been in a relationship with. Maybe you feel no romantic love for them, but as a Christian, you still owe them the same kind of love that God extends to you. As a fellow human being, you should have their best interests in mind. You can break up with someone without creating a lifelong enemy. Just be truthful, stick to the facts, don't exaggerate, don't insult and tear down the other person. And don't fall back on the old saw, it's not you, it's me. Unless it really is you, in which case a little contriteness and an apology would be in order. So be kind, be gentle, be truthful. All the things I said before, I said assuming that you're contemplating a normal breakup. If you're in a relationship and have just come to realize it can't possibly consummate in a great marriage, the way I outlined above is a good way to part ways and still be civil acquaintances or even friends. And as a side note, yes, that is possible. I'm still friends with the women I went out with while I was single and single again. Even my ex-wife wants to be my friend. Of course, after all she put me through, that may or may not be possible, but I'm not sure. But at the very least, we can and are civil and friendly towards each other. But anyway, that's a side point. On to my next point. I don't want to deal in depth with the abusive relationship issue in this episode, though I've dealt with it somewhat while facilitating divorce care. It's not an area I feel comfortable giving advice about, but I will say this. If you are in an abusive relationship, get to a safe place as soon as you can do so safely. Don't telegraph your intentions. Don't offer excuses. In fact, don't talk to the abuser about it at all. Just disappear and get to a safe place. And get some advice from a reputable person or organization that has a good track record of helping abused individuals. And in either case, whether dealing with the aftermath of an abusive relationship or the inevitable sense of loss after a typical breakup, you're going to need some recovery time. Give yourself time to heal up and mourn the loss of the relationship. The longer the relationship lasted, the more intimate it was, or the more dysfunctional it was, the longer it's going to take to recover and be ready to try again. You're going to be vulnerable for a time, so get some support. Don't get caught up in the dead-end cycle of dating and breaking up and dating and breaking up over and over and over again. During this time of singleness, be single, be unattached. Use it as a time to learn what it takes to create a lasting relationship. Don't go into another relationship the same person you were in your last relationships. This is the time for personal growth and making positive changes. So, till next time, avoid long-term sexualized dating relationships. Don't drag out dead-end relationships. Break up sooner rather than later. Break up directly and truthfully, but gently. If you're in an abusive relationship, get to a safe place as soon as safely possible. Deal effectively with the aftermath of a breakup. Don't rush into a new relationship. Take time to learn about how to make your next relationship last. And as always, till next time, thrive on. I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. See you next week. Till then, be sure to subscribe and go check out my extensive archive of past posts at thrivesingles.com. And thrive on.
Whoa, thrive. Yeah, come alive. Whoa, whoa, you gotta thrive. There's more to life than to just survive.